is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Friday edition of the Stokastic NHL Strategy Show. I am your host, Josh Harris. Got a nice little 5-gamer here on tap tonight after a 10-gamer last night. Oilers, almost 6 expected goals last night, 0 actual. First time they've been shut out at home in over 40 years. Probably needed Sorokin. He was only 7K. My night kind of ended early, but can't hit the nuts if you don't play here tonight. So I don't even know who had
I mean, you had Tage Thompson or you didn't.
Oh, Tage Thompson had a hat trick, right?
Yeah. Hat trick and 5 points.
Yeah. You needed the Sabres. The Capitals lost to the Sharks, so that was unfortunate. Vancouver didn't really do anything. The Jackets were pretty good.
Yeah, it was like Toronto too did well, even though Nylander got hurt like 15 minutes in. He had a goal and assist in the first 10 minutes. Suzuki, Caulfield, and Demidov all scored for Montreal. So, like, if you game stack Buffalo, Montreal, you probably did well. You needed Tage Thompson last night. And that guy, man, like, I watched that game from start to finish. That guy was just an absolute menace. Not that Montreal's defense is very stout anyway, but it seems like him and Josh Doan especially, like it feels like every time I watch Josh Doan, he just takes another level. That he looks like he's going to be phenomenal. They were just doing whatever they wanted against the Habs last night. Yeah, that Oilers game. Watched the third period. Like, I don't know, maybe a minute left when they had the goalie pulled. Draisaitl was in his usual spot, like at the bottom of the faceoff dot, got a clean pass and absolutely hammered it off the post with a half-empty net. Probably should have scored, but hockey, like most professional sports, is a game of inches. That's the way it goes. But like you said, can't hit the nuts if you don't play, and that's why we're here tonight for this 5-gamer.
Yeah, interesting 5-gamer. A lot of these teams are on the front end of back-to-back. Sharks are on the back end. Colorado's fresh with a giant total, you know what I mean? So not the worst slate in the world. There's some pretty heavy chalk spots, pretty obvious chalk spots, I think, but let's get into this slate before we do. Once again, our affiliate tracking link is not working. Now the chat is not sending. But there we go. We do have a promo code that tracks our signups. It is promo code PUCKLUCK. That gets you 15% off any subscription, any sport, any weekly or monthly. So check that out. We appreciate the support. Let's start with the Florida Panthers, the 2.7 total heading into Carolina. The Hurricanes have a 3.3. Still no Brad Marchand. Florida going Reinhart, Lundell, Luosterainen, Bennett, Verhaeghe, Greer, Rodriguez, Samoskevich, Vilmanis. Carolina going Aho, Svechnikov, Ehlers, Jarvis, Stahl, Martinook, Blake, Stankov, and Hall. Start on the Florida side. Like, without Marchand, without Barkov, without Tkachuk, it's just kind of tough sledding. For Florida here. This isn't the best matchup in the world for them either. Probably Brandon Bussey, in that I haven't seen if they confirmed or not, but he's definitely been their better goalie. I don't have a ton of interest in Florida here now that Reinhart, Lundell, Luosterainen line is coming in at almost 10% projected ownership with a 9.2% top 2 stack at 15.7. Like, they've been fine. Nothing special. Certainly nothing that warrants, like, almost 10% projected ownership. Like, if you want a one-off Sam Reinhart, I think that's fine. He just doesn't – he plays a ton of minutes. But I don't have a ton of interest in that line at almost 10%. I'd go down to Bennett, Verhaeghe, Greer. They've been better from a possession standpoint. They're creating more. They're scoring more. They're only $600 cheaper, but They're coming in at 6% projected ownership. It's probably the line I would play if I was playing Florida. I just don't have much interest in stacking Florida in single entry. But if you are doing something like Colorado power play, you can do like a 2-man of Rodriguez, Samoskevich, something like that. They've been fine together this season. Nothing. They've actually been really good together this season. I don't know how much they have with Vilmanis, probably not much, but I don't mind them as a 2-man. If I had to stack a line, it would be that Bennett line. I'm fine with some one-offs, a one-off Reinhart, one-off Verhaeghe, one-off Bennett, something like that. Probably not going to stack anything on the Florida side. On the Carolina side now, this top line is 19,500, 10.8% top two, 2.8% projected ownership. They've been excellent. It's just kind of a price thing, right? Sebastian Aho at 7K feels expensive for what he's been doing lately. They're fine, especially because they're coming in with a pretty low ownership. Florida takes a bunch of penalties. They have a pretty decent penalty kill, but it still counts for something. I'd probably, like, if I was doing Carolina 1, I'd do like a one-off Svechnikov or a one-off Ealer or something like that. I don't know if I'd full stack them here tonight. We have, they're the third most expensive line on the night behind Tampa and Colorado, which we'll get to later, but there's a bunch of lines in that 15, 16, 17K range that are definitely playable. We'll talk about Colorado. They're in their own little price range. But if you do something with Tampa, you'd probably be in a similar price range as Carolina 1. Carolina 2, listen, they're 11,600, 1.9% top two, 2.3% projected ownership. They don't play a ton, but the price is reflective of that. I don't have a problem going back to them. I kind of am handling Carolina similar to how I'm handling Florida, like a one-off Ehlers, one-off Svechnikov, one-off Jarvis, something like that. If I had a stack a line, it'd be Carolina 2, but obviously I would put my favorite line in first and then, work in Carolina 2. In a nutshell, my favorite line in this game is Carolina 1. I just have a problem paying 19,500 for that line. Aho feels overpriced. Svechnikov feels a little overpriced. So, they're fine. I'm probably looking elsewhere.
The case for me for playing Carolina 1 is the ownership. Like you said, 2.8 projected ownership. Like, whatever else we might think, this is a 5-game slate, and this is a Carolina top line generating 4.7 expected goals for per 60 at 5-on-5, getting 2.8% projected ownership. And this isn't the Florida Panthers championship teams of recent seasons. Over the course of the year, they're 23rd in the league by goals against per minute. Over their last 25 games, they are 29th by goals against per minute. The only teams worse are Vancouver, San Jose, and Anaheim. This is with all the injuries that Florida has, this is a great matchup for Carolina. The one drawback, like you mentioned, is Florida's penalty kill, rather. They're excellent on the PK. They do take a lot of penalties. They're at 3.7 times shorthanded per game over the last 5 weeks. Second highest rate in the league. Over the course of the season, 3.4 times shorthanded per game, also the second highest rate in the league. But, they're not giving up very much. Over the course of the season, despite being, second in time shorthanded per game, they're tied for like 19th or 20th for fewest power play goals against per game. Like, they don't give up a lot on the power play. And obviously Carolina's power play has been better over the last 4 to 6 weeks, but still not great. Like, better means around league average, not elite or anything like that. So the one drawback for me is that power play. But, there's only a 5-game slate. If Aho has 2 goals and an assist, good chance he has the best single game performance on the night or something like that. Same thing with Svechnikov or Ehlers. So, like, I honestly don't mind them. It's just the power play does worry me, and so does the ice time, right? Their last 5 games, Aho 18.39 per game, Svechnikov under 18, Ehlers under 17. That's not a lot of ice time for a line priced at nearly $20K. But this is a very, very good matchup for them, and they're coming in with no ownership. The fact that they're not getting a lot of ice time kind of makes me want to dip down to the depth Carolina lines. Like as you mentioned, Carolina 2, Blake, Stankoven, Hall, they're not getting a lot of ice time either, 14, 15 minutes, but they're perfectly correlated on the second power play unit, and they're 11,600 with 2.3% projected ownership. And there is not a single matchup on the Florida side that I'm worried about. Like, you probably don't want to run into the top line, but even then, even the top line over their last 16 games, which is 20% of the season, 2.8 expected goals against per 60. It's just not very good. So I think I kind of like Carolina's depth lines here. The second line in particular, just because they probably should get a fair bit of power play time. Even the second unit gets like 35% of the time. And if Carolina gets 4 or 5 power plays here tonight, that could mean like 2 to 3 minutes of power play time. That's still something. And one perfectly correlated goal is probably all you need. And then, whatever shots and blocks that they can rack up on top of that. So I do like Carolina 2 here. Carolina 3 is fine, but they're probably going to run into that Lundell line again. Not great defensively, but 13,200, they feel a little overpriced to me. It's not like, Jordan Stahl and Jordan Martinook are great goal scorers or anything like that. I like Carolina too. I could see using them as a filler. No problems here tonight. On the Florida side, I don't have any interest in that top line. They're not generating a lot. They get a lot of minutes, which helps. Reinhardt's been playing like 20, 22, 23 minutes a game over his last 5 games. Like, he's getting a lot of ice time. Even Lundell's around 20 minutes plus. So that's fine. But as you mentioned, that second line with Bennett, Verhaeghe, and Greer, Greer's having a really good season. I was looking earlier. He has 17 points in 45 games. That ties what he had last year in 81 games. He's meshed in well with that second line, 2.9 expected goals, 71 shot attempts per 60. You do get Bennett and Verhaeghe on the top power play unit. They're going to avoid Slavin and Stahl, that matchup for the most part. They'll see some of them, but not a ton of them. I'm perfectly fine with Florida 2 here. I prefer them over Florida 1. I think Florida 3 is also in play. Rodriguez gets a fair amount of minutes. They've been good as a depth line. They don't have a high shooting percentage, which is a problem, but that's basically the modus operandi for any Evan Rodriguez line, is they never have high shooting percentages. It's just once in a while they'll pop off. So I think Florida 3 is perfectly fine. 9,500, we do have Tampa and Colorado on the board here tonight. You might be looking for a sub 10K line, and I think Florida 3 is absolutely one that you can play. But it's Florida 2 I like best from that side. I think it's both second lines for me in this game. If I was 20 maxing here tonight, I'm not. I usually play single entry. If I'm 20 maxing or whatever it is, I probably have 1 or 2 of Carolina's top line, just because they are really good. They are perfectly correlated, and they're not getting any ownership. And even at 19,500, you can still fit them in with one of the lines from Anaheim, or one of the lines, one of the chalk lines from the Kings or something like that fairly easily. So there is a pretty good case for playing Carolina 1 here. But for me, I think it's both second lines, and I prefer the Carolina side more.
San Jose Sharks with a 2.8 total heading into Detroit. The Red Wings have a 3.7. Clayton yelling at me about my prisons there. Getting some interesting text messages currently, so I'm going to just stare at the screen. Sharks beat the Capitals last night, so they'll probably run back the same lineup: Celebrini, Chernyshov, Groff, Eklund, Toffoli, Wenberg, Pavel, the GOAT, Regenda, Gaudette, and Michael Misa. Detroit mixing up their lines finally, going Kopp, Kane, DeBrincat, then Larkin, Raymond, Van Riemsdyk. Let me start on the Detroit side because there's so much ownership here. We just did get an update. Let me just give a little update there. Yeah, I mean, there is a ton of ownership on Detroit. Cop, Kane, DeBrincat, 15,900, 20.5% top two, 26.8% projected ownership. Larkin, Raymond, Van Riemsdyk, 15,600, 12.3% top two, 14.2% projected ownership. I feel like that's going to be, by the time the slate locks, those lines will be closer in ownership. Even I think like Larkin might be the highest owned Red Wing here tonight. That line is fully correlated. Larkin, Raymond, Van Riemsdyk. It is an excellent power play matchup. It is Askarov and net. Nedeljkovic went last night. They've both been similar. Askarov has been a little bit better, but it is what it is. If the ownership holds like that, I definitely would rather play Larkin, Raymond, Van Riemsdyk fully correlated, $300 cheaper for half the ownership. I just have a feeling that like the Cop line is going to come in a lot lower. And I get it because they don't have the power play correlation, but they are better at 5-on-5. I still probably would just go to the Larkin line just because it's fully correlated. The problem is like at that point, I might as well just full power play stack, add in DeBrincat if you want to add in Cider or whatever. So like if you're worried about ownership and you're like, oh man, I'm not really sure, 5-man power play stack, get her done. It's 5-game slate. And so if ownership holds, I'm fine with the Larkin line, but at that point, I'm probably just power play stacking. The Shark side's a little interesting. I know they're back-to-back on the road. Cliffy and I were talking about Celebrini's minutes before the show. He's been averaging over 25 minutes a game in his past 5 games, something like that.
Well, in the month of January,
just absolute bonkers minutes. That line with Chernyshov and Groff actually haven't been awful. Been pretty good actually. Celebrini and Chernyshov have been very good together. Groff is whatever, 17,500, 12.4% top two, 12.1% projected ownership. The one thing that I do worry about.
I just want to jump in real quick. Should mention Pavel Regenda played basically the second half of the game on the top line, and Chernyshov got moved down to the third line. So that's something to watch for in warm-ups, that Chernyshov might not be next to Celebrini anymore.
Yeah, and Regenda, whatever his name is, he scored with Celebrini, so definitely something to keep in mind. I'm fine with the Celebrini one-off here. I know he's 9,700, but if he's going to play close to half the game against the Red Wings, like, count me in. He'll see a fair bit of Cider, Evanson, but who cares? Like, Celebrini is fast vaulting himself up into the matchup-proof category. He is ridiculous. So I don't even mind a one-off here. I'm not exactly thrilled with the second line here. Wenberg, Toffoli, Eklund, 14,800, 11.8% top two, 16.8% projected ownership. Now, they are fully correlated, and they will avoid Cider, Evanson, so that is a reason to play them, but they have not been great at 5-on-5. And they still have Klingberg on the power play, which is like very annoying. The Red Wings penalty kill is better than last year. So I guess like you could do like a Celebrini Eklund or something like that. There's no way I'm full stacking Wenberg, Toffoli, Eklund here. You can, but 17% for a second line of a team back-to-back on the road that isn't even great at 5-on-5 is going to be a pass for me. So on the Detroit side, it's a power play stack. On the Sharks side, I'm building around Celebrini if I do anything with the Sharks.
Yeah, I agree with the Detroit power play stack. The Sharks do take a fair amount of penalties. It hasn't been, as bad lately, more towards league average over the last 5 weeks. Over the course of the season, 10th most time shorthanded per game. And since Detroit moved James Van Riemsdyk to the top power play unit, that top power play unit generating 11.1 expected goals, 13.1 actual goals per 60 at 5-on-4. That's basically, what they did last year once they started heating up over the final, what was it, like 50 games or 55 games or something like that. This is basically about the level they were at. And it's not, I don't think it's a big surprise. Like James Van Riemsdyk, he kind of feels like the Eastern Conference Corey Perry, where like he just goes from team to team on 1-year deals and has a fairly positive impact playing 13 minutes a game or whatever on the third line. Obviously, it looks like he's getting a bigger role now, but he's still very, very good around the net, just like Corey Perry is. It kind of reminds me of that. And with how cheap he is and how moderately cheap Lucas Raymond is, like you can 5-man power play stack, put in an 8K goalie, and still have over 4K per roster spot left over after that. Like you're not dipping down to full punting and looking for third and fourth liners exclusively anyway. So, Detroit does draw a fair amount of power play opportunities, 3.1 per game over the last 5 weeks. That's 9th in the league, 8th most power play opportunities per game over the course of the season. So this is a pretty good power play match. And obviously the Sharks penalty kill, goals against per minute, like over the last 5 weeks, dead last in the league by goals against on the penalty kill, 22nd in the league over the course of the season. This is a great power play matchup for the Red Wings, and the power play with Van Riemsdyk there has finally started to look like what it was last year. And we know how good there was like a month-long stretch where those guys just absolutely just shredded everybody on the power play and it wrecked DFS slate after DFS slate. So I really do like a Detroit power play stack here. Like if you want to go and play, Detroit 1 or Detroit 2 or something, like I'm with you. I'd lean Detroit 1 and get the 3 power play guys in. But this is a game where if I'm playing the Red Wings, I'm probably power play stacking. I mean, I guess if you want to dip down to the third line, Finney, Casper, Comfer, like that's playable just because, again, if you're in a situation with Colorado or Tampa Bay where you need a lot of extremely cheap guys, Finney and Comfer over 60 minutes together, at least league average by shot and expected goal generation, like that's something. And being league average going out against the depth from the Sharks is probably good enough to at least put yourself in position to score a goal. But it's Detroit's power play that I'm focusing on here. It's just too good of a spot for them. On the San Jose side, I mean, it's one of those things, like it's not a great matchup for Celebrini, right? Like, as you said, running into Moritz Seider, not exactly what you want. But I was looking at Celebrini's splits earlier when I was going through the slate, and his points per game is actually higher on the road than it is at home this season. And he would be seeing shutdown matchups, everywhere that he went, whether he was going into Los Angeles to face Anderson and Doughty or going into Dallas to face Lindell and Heiskanen or, going into Colorado, going in wherever. He is facing shutdown matchups all the time, and he's still producing more on the road than he is at home, which is absolutely insane to think about. I'm just not a fan of just stacking him like without any of the power play guys around him. Like if I play San Jose here tonight, like, if you want to play Colin Graf, I think that's fine. Just because Graf has been getting good ice time lately now that he's been moved back up the lineup, right? Like he played 20 minutes last night in a regulation game playing on the top line. I don't think he plays 20 minutes again, but you never really know. And, if you want to do Celebrini, Graf, Toffoli, Celebrini, Graf, Eklund, like something like that, I think that's perfectly fine. Maybe you want to bring in Regenda or Chernyshov, depending who's there in warm-up. I mean, that's okay, but I'd be pretty tempted to bring along the power play guys. They have to be making the Klingberg switch, right? Like this has to happen. Like this can't keep going the way that it's going, can it?
I think they're trying to trade him. So like they're like showcasing him. They're like showcasing how awful he is by doing it.
But like it can't keep going on like this, can it? I was mentioned, like, in similar-ish minutes, the Sharks have scored 3 times the goals with Orlov on the ice for the power play that they have with Klingberg. Like, I think Orlov's played like an extra 15 minutes or something like that, and 3 times the goals. And yet, I mean, 0 for 3. I think it was 0 for 3 last night with Klingberg running. Like, did they have to be making the switch? I think my favorite thing is honestly just a one-off Celebrini and then go play a couple mid-price lines after that. But if you don't, I would certainly bring along at least one of the power play guys, whether it's Toffoli, whether it's Eklund. Even Alex Wenberg has 17 points in his last 16 games, which is absolutely insane. But I would be tempted to just do like Celebrini Graf, Eklund, Celebrini Graf, Wenberg, something like that. But my favorite thing in this game is absolutely a Detroit power play stack.
The absolute Drury hate in my messages on my phone right now is insane. The letter 2.0. Anyway, Tampa Bay Lightning with a 3.2 total heading into St. Louis. The Blues have a team. Tampa going Kucherov, Gensel, Paul, Hagel, Cirelli, Gonsalves, yada, yada, yada. Blues going Dvorsky, Neighbors, Kyrou, Shen, Snuggerud, Stenberg, Buchnevich, Bergen, Bukestad. What are we even doing here with this team? I guess like on the Blues side, it'd be like a 2-man of Shen and Snuggerud, I guess, for $7K on the power play. It's not a good power play spot, but like they'll probably see that Paul Kucherov Gensel line, and like any Kucherov line, probably not great defensively. So if I had to do something with the Blues, it'd be a 2-man of Shen Snuggerud to let you get in the expensive stuff, whatever that is to you. But like, am I really playing the Blues here tonight? No. It's just a question of what you want to do on the Tampa side. And it's like, I don't particularly love these lines. But Paul Gensel Kucherov, 19,900, 13.1% top 2, 4.3% projected ownership. Like with the Lightning, it always comes in higher, especially when Point is out. Like Kucherov's minutes are going to go up. You get, Kucherov and Gensel on the top power play unit. The Blues, don't take a ton of penalties, but their penalty kill's awful. This line, Kucherov and Gensel have a large sample together, and they've been good, obviously. Nick Paul being there is kind of unfortunate, but he does see some power play time with Kucherov. And there really isn't any matchup concerns for me on the Blues side. Like they'll see Shen and Snuggerud, and that line just, isn't great. If they see some Dvorsky, they're going to eat. And if they see some Bukestad, welcome to the jungle. You know what I mean? So like, it's just a good matchup. I feel bad not having Hagel in the stack, but if you went Kucherov, Gensel, Hagel, then you're spending like over what Colorado 1 costs. And I guess you could do that because Colorado 1 isn't fully correlated. And if you wanted to, make it fully correlated, it'd be more expensive. So, but again, like the Blues just don't take a ton of penalties. So I'd probably just go Gensel, Paul, Kucherov. I think a 2-man of Hagel, Cirelli is fine. One-off Bjorkstrander, I guess, if you need cheap. But like, I'm probably my favorite thing in this game is the Kucherov line.
Yeah, I'll say the only thing that I have real interest in on the St. Louis side is the top line, and I use the term interest very loosely here. Shen, Snuggerud, Stenberg, just because they're under 10K. If you want a game stack with Tampa Bay, you can do that. If you need to play them with Colorado, you can do that as well. The reason is Philip Broberg looks like he's going to play tonight. He's officially a game time decision, but he was practicing on the power play this morning. They had one of their depth defensemen stay on for extra work after practice. That's usually an indication that guy will be a scratch and that Broberg will be back in the lineup. I'm going to bring up a graph. I wrote about it today for over at Dauber Hockey, where I write about season-long fantasy hockey. And one thing I found over the summer is that teams whose defensemen are bad at exiting the zone or fumble the puck on defensive zone dump-ins typically struggle to score a lot at 5-on-5. This goes back years, so we call it, botched defensive zone retrieval and failed zone exits. Teams that are bad at both, it actually hurts them a lot more offensively than it does defensively. I'm going to bring up a graph. In the top right, there are two teams well above the league average, means they botched their defensive zone retrievals way more than everyone else, and the defenseman failed to exit the zone way more than everyone else. One of them is the New York Islanders. The other one is the St. Louis Blues. And if you look at the individual players, it's basically like Broberg is passable, good. Fowler is passable. Everyone else sucks. And the problem there is the depth line. So like the Dvorsky line, or even the fourth line or whatever, they're not going to play a lot with Broberg because Broberg's going to go out in the shutdown matchup. Braden Schen's going to go out in the shutdown matchup. So they're going to be on the ice together 5-on-5. The rest of the minutes are just a wasteland because there's no defenseman that can move the puck on that team. None of them. So that's why I would have interest in the Schenn line, because they're actually going to be able to, and again, interest, I use that term loosely, is that they're going to get a lot of minutes of 5-on-5 with Broberg, and it's the only defense pair the team has that can move the puck. The rest just can't do it. So St. Louis won like a two-man, like Schenn, Snuggerud or something like that if you want to. Like, say what we will about the Blues, and there's certainly a lot to say about them, but Snuggerud's last 4 games, he has 18 shots on goal, and he's skated between 16 and 19 minutes in every game. So he's getting good ice time, and he's shooting the puck. That's something. Maybe a puck will go in off Braden Schen's shin pad or something, right? That's basically the only interest I have in St. Louis. The depth, I'm just completely out on. The question is what to do on the Tampa Bay side. Like, Tampa Bay's power play is basically identical with or without Brandon Hagel. So I don't think this is a situation where him being on the top power play is really going to change a whole lot. Like you said, the Blues don't take a ton of penalties, but the Lightning have been drawing a fair amount of power plays, 4th most in the league over the last 5 weeks, 7th most in the league per game over the course of the season. That Tampa top line, not perfectly correlated. 13.6% top 2 stack, 4.2% ownership. The way I look at it is like, would I rather play Tampa Bay on the road in St. Louis, or would I rather play Carolina at home against Florida? I would probably rather play Carolina, but, with no Robert Thomas, like, not really that worried about a Braden Schenn shutdown matchup. You know what I mean? So I do think there's some merit to playing Tampa Bay 1 here. I think you can just leave Nick Paul there. Like you said, he does get some power play time. That certainly helps. He's up near 16 minutes in his last game, that game against Pittsburgh, so he gets decent ice time. Like, that's fine. The Tampa Bay second line is kind of interesting to me, just because, they're going to avoid that Broberg matchup. And like, once you get to the depth from St. Louis, like, there's nothing to worry about. Hagel, Cirelli, Gonçalves, 15,400, 4.6% top 2 stack. Like I said, they're going to avoid any shutdown matchups. I'm not really stacking the Lightning for the power play here tonight. If you want to make it a more expensive stack, I think you can take off Gonçalves and put Kucherov in there instead. And Kucherov played, 26 minutes in the last game without Braden Point? Not expecting that again, but he had been playing 17, 18 minutes prior to that. So I'm expecting, a good chunk of ice time from Kucherov here. I'd hate to leave him off. So I think it's like a Hagel, Cirelli, Kucherov stack I would like best. It's Tampa 2 I like best in this game overall. Like I said, I think St. Louis 1 is in play just because they're under 10K and you can put them in Colorado. But I'm not super stoked about that. I'd almost rather play Florida 3.
Yeah. Nashville Predators, 2.5 total. Heading into Colorado, the Avs have a 4 total. Nashville going O'Reilly. Well, they said the same forward group as last game, which means Marchessault's out. Whatever their lines are, who knows? But we have O'Reilly, Forsberg, Evangelista, Stamkos, Hull, Bunting. Colorado going McKinnon, Netchus, Lehkonen. Nelson, Nishushkin, Colton. Colton's a game time decision, but I think he's going to play. I think they said something like,
yeah.
Play. On the Nashville side, I think Blackwood's back too, right? He's inactivated. Yeah, that's a big problem. It's not Trent Miner. Blackwood has a 933 save percentage on the season. Yes, Devin Tays is still out, but yes, they have enough to shut down the mighty Preds. Who the top line 16,100, 10.4% top two, 8.1% projected ownership. Like, it's fine, but like 8% going into Colorado with a 2.5 total is just not something I want to full stack. I think like a one-off Evangelista is fine. One-off Steven Stamkos, whatever. I'd probably do like a one-off Evangelista if I was going to do anything from Nashville. If you happen to get one or two Nashville ones in your mix or whatever, cool. But I'm not going out of my way to play them in single entry. The question is what to do with Colorado. Colorado won $23,000, 34% top two stack, 11.1% projected ownership. Lehkonen not on the top power play. I'm always is he? You're looking at me like you might. It's between him and Nishushkin, right?
He was there last game.
Was he? Nishushkin wasn't?
No.
Okay. So fully correlated. Either way, 23,000 is a lot of cheddar cheese to be paying for a line here. The ownership is low enough where I feel good enough about doing something like McKinnon, McCarr 2-man, McKinnon, Nelson 2-man. I don't know if I want a full stack a line at 23K. You can. There's plenty of cheap lines you can fit them with. It's just like at that price, you need everyone to have bonuses, which is certainly possible with the Avs here. It's just, it's getting really expensive. Nashville's penalty kill is kind of, I don't want to say it's bad, but it's kind of like UC Saros driven. So if he's not on his game, it could be a mess. But if you don't want to spend 23K, I'm cool with the 2-man of McKinnon, McCarr, McKinnon, Nelson, McKinnon, Netches, something like that. The second line, 16,200. It's a little pricey for me. I think a one-off Nelson's fine if you want to fade if you can't afford McKinnon and you still want Colorado exposure. But obviously, Colorado 1's my favorite line on the slate. It's just a question of if you want to spend 23,000 for him.
Yeah, I don't. Blackwood coming back kind of throws a wrench in things. I was hoping it would be Trent Miner again, but I don't hate the idea of playing Nashville 1 here. I mean, Forsberg, O'Reilly, Evangelista has been good offensively this year. They got broken up for a while. They've been put back lately. 65 shot attempts, 2.7 expected goals over their last handful of games. O'Reilly playing over 21 minutes. Evangelista and Forsberg high teens, like 18 and 19 minutes. Colorado's top line, I keep saying it, has not been good defensively. It's one reason why they were broken up and Landeskog was there, and then they had to put them back together after Landeskog got hurt. Like, I was looking at the last 20% of the season, so the last 16 games for this top line, 69 shot attempts against, 3.3 expected goals against per 60. League average goals against, actual goals against per minute, despite a 936 save percentage behind them. So if this goaltending is 900 or 910 rather than 936, the goals against would look very bad here. We just saw the Toronto top line go in and have a pretty good game against Colorado, albeit again, this is Mackenzie Blackwood starting here tonight, it looks like, as opposed to Trent Miner. But, in that Leafs game, was it Austin Matthews had a goal and assist? William Nylander had a goal and assist. Like, these guys can be gotten to this, and especially with, no Devin Taves, Makar, as great as he is, almost all of his values drive from offense, not necessarily from elite defense. I don't mind Nashville one here. The problem is like you said, at 8% ownership or whatever, they're basically kind of in the same spot as like the Florida second line. And would I rather play Florida against Colorado or Carolina or Nashville against Colorado? It's probably Florida for me, but I do think there's a case for Nashville one here. It's really the only line that I would have interest in. The big issue is like Colorado, whatever else Colorado is defensively, is their top line anyway. The penalty kill is elite. Fourth fewest goals against per minute over the course of the season, or over the course of the last 5 weeks, fewest goals against per minute over the course of the season by fair margin. So that's the big issue. I think Nashville for me is more like 20 max and above than it would be single entry, but I really don't mind Nashville one here. Question, like you said, the question is, what do you do with the Colorado side? Like, this isn't a spot where I'm necessarily concerned about power play correlation. Like, the one thing that Colorado just doesn't have is a good power play. I was looking at the top power play numbers when they had Brock Nelson and Lehkonen on there. 6.5 expected goals, 5.7 actual goals per 60. That is Philadelphia Flyers-esque. It's flat out bad. So like, I hate saying I think you can fade the Colorado top line, because obviously if Nathan MacKinnon decides to go supernova at even strength here tonight, slate's over. But it's not a slate where like I'm necessarily concerned about power play correlation. I think I'm perfectly fine playing Colorado 2 here. Like, over 100 minutes for that Colorado second line, 3.9 expected goals, 79 shot attempts per 60 minutes. Brock Nelson has 31 points in his last 27 games. That's like a 95-point pace over the course of a full season. They're perfectly priced at 16,200. Not really that worried about any of the depth matchups for Nashville, especially if they see any time against the third and fourth lines. I think Colorado 2, considering they're $7,000 cheaper, and this is not a spot where I'm worried about power play correlation, Colorado 2 is my favorite line in this game. I do think there is a case for playing Nashville 1, but if like you said the other day, play your guys. If somebody out there, somebody really likes Colorado 1, I'm not going to say don't play them. Like, the Nathan MacKinnon could hit the ice, they won't score a power play goal, and he'll end the slate by the end of the first period. Like, they are capable of doing that. But where this is not a spot where I'm necessarily concerned about power play correlation, I like Colorado too.
Yeah, Nelson definitely more comfortable in Colorado now than he was when he got traded there last season. Cliffy's client. Anaheim Ducks with a 2.7 total. That's egregious. Should be 1.3 with these lines. Heading into Los Angeles, the Kings have a 3.3. Very short trip for the Ducks, I guess. On the 5, it might take 3.5 hours, but that's neither here nor there. These lines are atrocious for the Ducks. They are going McTavish, Kreider, Strome, Granlund, Seneca, Killorn, Paling, Gauthier, Terry. Kings, equally as shit. Kempe, Laferriere, Malott, Fiala, Kuzmenko, Turcotte, Byfield, Fogle, Ward. There is a lot of ownership on the Kings per our projections. Almost half the field is going to have a King in the lineup. The Kempe line, 17.7% projected. The Fiala line, 19% projected. And the Byfield line, 12% projected. Now, I think there's a couple of ways. If you want to play the Kings, you can. I think first, if you want to do a full line, it's the Turcotte line. I know they're the highest owned, but they're only 13K. They've been good in 111 minutes, 3.2 expected goals for per 60, controlling the play. There's absolutely no matchup that concerns me on the Ducks side. You get 2 to 3 on the top power play. So, if you could do what you want with Turcotte at 3,200, you could leave him off if you want. I think the other thing that I would do one-offs and pair them with Brandt Clark. because he's running the power play. A one-off Kempe, a two-man with Clark. A one-off Fiala, two-man with Clark. A one-off Kuzmenko, a two-man with Clark. Or, if you want to stack that Turcotte line, add in Clark, something like that. I think the least likely line that I would play is the Byfield line at 12%. They only have a 3.9% top two stack. That line hasn't been great since they've got together. The Kempe, Laferriere, Malott line has been fine in a small sample, but the Fiala, Kuzmenko, Turcotte line has been very good. So I would absolutely just go to that line there. 8.8% top two, 19% ownership. That's a lot of negative leverage, but that line has been good. I find a way to work in Brandt Clark, especially if I was doing one-offs, just because it'll, bring down the collective ownership, even if they're both high owned. On the Duck side, it's one-offs. Like, I'm not full stacking any of these stupid lines. I have no faith that they're going to stick together. Carlson didn't skate, so he's probably going to be out, right? So they're just searching for pairs. I would not be shocked to see them completely scramble their lines at some point in this game. I'm fine with a one-off Gauthier, one-off McTavish, one-off Seneca, something like that. But I'm treating these lines kind of like the John Tortorella Flyers. Like, I have no faith that they're going to make it to the end of the first period together. So I'm sticking to one-offs.
Yeah. I'll start on the Kings side. I agree with you on that Kuzmenko line. Like, they have been good together. 3.4 expected goals, 63 shot attempts per 60. You do get Kuzmenko and Fiala on the power play. Like you said, you can pair them with Brandt Clark, kind of be on your way. There's no matchup concerns on the other side. Anaheim is taking a fair amount of penalties. Over the last 5 weeks, 3.2 per game. It's the seventh highest rate in the league, 3.3 per game over the course of the season. That is the fourth highest rate in the league. So theoretically, this is a good power play matchup for the Kings, but it's another one of those, is this a good power play matchup for Los Angeles or a good penalty kill matchup for the Anaheim Ducks? Because the Los Angeles penalty power play has been basically non-existent this year. So I would go to that Kuzmenko line. Like, they've been getting, decent minutes. Turcotte at the low end around 15. Fiala and Kuzmenko because of the injuries and elsewhere amongst the forward group, and that fact they don't play the fourth line very much. They're getting like 18 to 20. Fiala getting like even 21 around that at times. That would be the line I would go to. I will say my general approach here tonight is just full fade the Kings. Like, for me, if people listen, I get the matchup. I get it's a matchup against the Ducks, and the Ducks goaltending over the last 20 games or whatever has just been abysmal. The Los Angeles Kings are tied for the second fewest goals scored per minute this season, and half the field is going to have some sort of Los Angeles Kings stack. I get that there are still going to be games where they put up like 4 goals or something like that, or 5 goals. If half the field is going to play the second worst offense in the league, for me, it's just one of those situations where I'm like, you know what? If Jeff Malott buries me tomorrow, Saturday, and it's a brand new slate, like, I am just not like in a single entry. I'm just going to fade, like full fade the Kings forwards and just hope that none of them, nuke the slate. That's just kind of the way I look at it. On the Anaheim side, the top 2 lines I don't have any real interest in. I was looking at Mason McTavish's numbers when he doesn't have Seneca or Gauthier next to him. 2.2 expected goals per 60, 2.8 actual. The actual goal scoring is a bit better than league average, 11%, 12%. That's fine, but it's not enough to get me that excited. The Anaheim second line, I was looking at Seneca's numbers when he doesn't have Cutter Gauthier next to him. 55 shot attempts, 2.4 expected goals per 60. That's not a whole lot to really hang your hat on. The third line obviously doesn't have much of a sample together. What I will say is that Evolving Hockey has Troy Terry and Cutter Gauthier as 2 of the top 5 Anaheim forwards this year by expected goals driving, and Terry and Gauthier are first and second by goal driving this year. And Ryan Poehling, whatever else we might think of him, he's at least been above average. above average isn't great, but when you have Gauthier and Terry next to you, just being around average is enough to be good. And especially where I don't think they're going to see much of the shutdown matchups. I think those are going to go to the Granlund line. So, Anaheim, I guess Anaheim 3 is what we're calling them. Gauthier, Terry, Paling, 15,100, coming in with positive leverage. So there's not that much ownership on them here tonight. Not really afraid of the Kings. The Kings take a pile of penalties, right? 3.7 times shorthanded per game over the last 5 weeks. 3.6, sorry, third highest rate in the league over the course of the season. Also the third highest rate of time shorthanded per game. Like, whatever else, this is a pretty good power play matchup for Anaheim. And it's not like the Kings penalty kills that good. The Kings PK goals, like, not looking at time shorthanded per game, just goals against per minute. Bottom 5 over the last 5 weeks, bottom 8 over the course of the season. This penalty kill is bad, and they take a lot of penalties. I'm not stoked about these Anaheim lines either. I think playing any number of one-offs, I agree with you, is very reasonable here. I don't mind Anaheim 3 at 15,100. I think that's the direction I would go. But if you just want a one-off Gauthier or one-off Granlund or one-off Seneca or something like that, I think that's perfectly fine. But considering there's minimal ownership here, I would much rather play Anaheim than Los Angeles here tonight.
Yeah. I mean, the ownership on the Kings is wild. So, also, I have to say, because if Jeff Malott burns me, it wouldn't be the first Malott brother to burn me. His brother Mike is a UFC fighter. I've been on the wrong side of his fucking fight since 2022, but it's the way it goes sometimes. Let's talk about defensemen. 6K and up, there's Makar, Yossi Seider, and Darren Radish. Obviously, Makar is in a great spot here. I know it's not the best power play matchup or whatever because the power play isn't great, but like McKinnon, he doesn't exactly need the power play. Now, his numbers without Taze, or whatever, but he's still fine at 8K. After that, it would definitely be Mo Seider at 6,200. He's my favorite of the 3 guys in the 6K range. Between Seider, Radish, and Yossi, I'd go Seider 1, Radish 2, Yossi 3. So if you can't pay for Makar and want to spend up, it would be Mo Seider for me.
Yeah, Makar does have the highest projection by a fair bit, 14.3. The only, Mort Cedars, the next closest at just over 11. So Makar is the number 1 play on the board here tonight. He's going to get a fair bit of ownership. I certainly don't mind him against Nashville. I mean, Mo Seider, really good power play spot against San Jose. San Jose back-to-back on the road. I think it's perfectly fine. I'm not super keen on Radish here just because it's not that good of a power play spot for Tampa Bay. So I think it'd be Makar or Seider for me. In the mid-price range, the highest projected defenseman between 4 and 6K is Brandt Clark. I am a huge Brandt Clark fan. I am not a Los Angeles Kings fan, at least of their offensive environment. But he is coming with a projection over 10 DK fantasy points and over 2 points per $1,000. Okay. I don't have that much faith in the Kings, man. Obviously he projects extremely well. I have no issue playing him. I've just watched too much Los Angeles Kings hockey this year, more than any person really should. Shane Gostisbehere is fine against Florida just because he might get a ton of power play time here. I mean, I guess Justin Falk is in line to at least put his body in front of a bunch of shots, but I'm not super excited about him. There's not really a lot in the mid-price range that I really want. Like Jackson Lacombe lost his top power play role. Brent Burns is okay, but Drew Doughty doesn't have his power play role. Jacob Trouba, his plays declined basically since November. Colton Parayko plays for St. Louis. So there's not a lot in that mid-price range. I really like it. I think it's a stars or scrubs night for me. Sam Malinsky has the highest projection for any defenseman under 4K here. I think that makes a lot of sense. Sean Walker just behind him. Evanson and Forsling, I think, are okay as well. Shout out Pavel Mintyukov. He's running the Ducks' top power play now. I wrote about him recently for season-long fantasy hockey. He's been shooting the puck a lot more over the last 4 weeks or so. I know it's not necessarily reflected in the points, but I mean, he's running the top power play facing a team that has a bad penalty kill and takes a ton of penalties. And Mintyukov, since New Year's Eve, 22.5, 21, 23, 23.5, 21, 21, 22 for ice time. Like that's a lot of ice time. So Mintyukov, certainly under 3K. Our old boy Uvis just signed an extension for Florida. Top power play minutes. It's something. Brady Shea is projecting decently as well. Not a lot under the 3K that I really like. Charles Edward Dastus, perfectly fine at 2,800.
Uvis on the power play. He's like the Mikey Anderson of power play quarterbacks, but at least he's there.
I mean, I would say Aaron Ekblad is the Mikey Anderson of power play quarterbacks, but that's neither here nor there.
It is not. Let's talk about those weird aliens who stop the puck. Honestly, don't mind the top range this week, surprisingly enough. I don't know who's starting for the Lightning. If it's Vasilevsky, I would have interest. Gibson has been great. Sharks are back-to-back on the road. I do like Mackenzie Blackwood at 8,400. It does kind of feel like he needs a shutout to pay off in GPPs, but with that top line not being great defensively, maybe he sees a little bit more volume than usual. In the mid-range, both the Kings and the Ducks starter are interesting to me. Darcy Kemper, 7,800. If it's Lucas Dostal at 7,600, it would give me interest, especially with the amount of ownership on the Kings. It's not how you leverage the chalk, but he will be low-owned because of it, and I don't mind him. For the cheap guys, probably Askarov, but that's just like once you get below like Dostal, it's kind of just plug your nose and hope for the best. Like I don't really want to play Bob. I hate playing goalies against Tampa. So Hofer is a bit worrisome, and then Askarov against Detroit or Saros against Colorado. I guess you could go Askarov or Saros. It just doesn't feel great.
Yeah. Blackwood and Kemper, provided Kemper gets this. Oh, Kemper got confirmed while we were on the air. Okay. Yeah. Blackwood and Kemper do have the two highest projections here tonight and the two highest point per dollar projections. Like I'd rather play Blackwood if I had the extra 600. Kemper's fine. For me, it's Blackwood or Vasilevsky, assuming Vasilevsky gets to start. I imagine Vasilevsky starts here. They've had 2 full days off since the last game. They don't have a back-to-back until next weekend, like 3 games in the next 6 days. So, for me, it's Blackwood or Vasilevsky amongst the expensive guys. Amongst the cheaper guys, like I do think Dostal makes a lot of sense. Like whatever might have happened over the prior 6 weeks or whatever, I still think Dostal is a pretty good goalie and just ran into a really bad stretch. I mean, I am a Habs fan. You just got to kind of look at what happened with Sam Montembeault, right? Is Sam Montembeault got his brains beat in for about 6 weeks. They gave him some time off. He came back. He's won 3 of his 4 starts since, only giving up 10 goals in 4 games. Sometimes you just need a little bit of a break. Anaheim got a bit of a break. I don't mind Dostal at 7,600. I think if I needed a super cheap guy, it'd be Askarov at 72. Like I'm not going to Saros. Saros, I think there is merit to playing. I mean, just look at what Ilya Sorokin did last night. Like there is merit to playing Saros. I'm not going to say that there's not, but I just feel like it could be one of those games where it's like 4 goals on 9 shots in the first 15 minutes and he's out before the end of the first period. So I think for me, it would probably be Askarov, but I would really try to find the extra $400 and go play Dostal instead.
My kid just asked me if Josh was the bad guy from the Chipmunks movie. That guy's played by David Cross, right? I don't really look like David Cross, but I get it because of the glasses. But yeah, I'll take it. I like David Cross. We'll be back tomorrow for a Saturday slate. Fun times always to be had on Saturdays. Who you liking for your hat trick pick?
I mean, I might have slandered him a little bit earlier in the show saying he's not much of a goal scorer, but maybe he'll pull it off tonight. I'm going Jordan Staal.
Oh, man, if it's Jordan Staal night, I'm going to bed early. 3 nights a year, it's Jordan Staal night.
We've already had one.
Yeah, I know. He's due for another one. I'm not playing them, so I don't even know why I'm going to them, but I do like him. Luke Evangelista.
Like I said, I don't mind the Preds top line, but I think for me that's more MME than single entry.
Yeah. So we will be back tomorrow, regular time. Look forward to that. It'll be snowy in New Jersey. I don't know why you needed to know that, but good luck, everybody, and we'll see you in the
Discord. Yeah, it's going to snow in New Jersey in the middle of January, guys. Good luck tonight.
Breaking news.